This is the Artchemy Atelier, and I am Maria Mar, the art shaman. The Artchemy Atelier is a new channel that I'm starting. I've been since I think beginning of the year, and I want you to know that in this Artchemy Atelier, it's not only about art and it's art and creativity, but it's about transformation. It's about lifestyle. It's about the way we live so that we create the life we want, and using art and beauty and creativity for it, right? So we have here with us my friend and an amazing transformation agent, Deborah Brodey. And Deborah is going to talk to us about self-care, but in specifically her particular unique path to self-care, which she calls radical self-nourishment. So let's start there. Let's start there. Why radical self-nourishment?
Radical self-nourishment. So let's break down the words. Radical. So when I refer to radical self-nourishment, radical, the root of the word is root. Radical means going to the roots. So the roots of our self-care. What is the root of self-care? And that's often it's about our relationship with who we are and remembering who we are. It's much deeper. It's connecting holistically and connecting with our soul, connecting with our spirit, connecting with our bodies, our minds, our emotions, like the whole system. And so going to the root, so I call it radical because we want to go to the root of our self-care. And one of the roots for me is about connecting with Mother Nature because we are nature. And so the root of self-care is your connection to nature. And self, you'll notice that, well, you don't see it in front of you, but self, I always refer to the self with a capital S self when I'm writing about my radical self-nourishment. And self meaning the self that is not our little egoic self, the egoic self that, is running around judging and I want this, I want that. And our little self is what suffers, what creates the suffering, right? And so the capital S self is the self that goes to the deepest part of the self that doesn't suffer. And it's the self that connects with the whole because in actuality, we are all one with the body of life. And so, yes, it's self care, self nourishment, but we're accessing who am I, the greater self. And so so self is so an important part of with a capital S self when I'm referring to radical self nourishment. Nourishment is food. You know, what do we feed ourselves? The nourishment, the food can be the spiritual nourishment, the emotional nourishment, the mental nourishment. So we always think of nourishment with food, and food is part of that, but it's so much deeper. So it's like the all levels and dimensions of what nourishment can mean. So radical self-nourishment is an approach to our self-care that's deeper than just I'm gonna have a bubble bath, and bubble bath is a wonderful can be a wonderful part of that, but it's about going to the roots of who we are and to uncover who we are and to uncover that which is not us. There's so much, we have so many layers on top of us of things we inherited from our families, from our culture, from our, just all the stories. And so, part of that is the who am I really? And I'm not this, I'm not that. And so there's this beautiful process of um, coming into a relationship with ourselves. I call it right relationship, and I don't mean right and wrong, but an aligned relationship with self. And that's what I'm talking about when I talk about radical self nourishment. It's why it's radical. It's not, it's like, oh, self-care is, I'm being selfish if I put myself first. And this idea of it being a selfish thing, that's something that's kind of built, that's something that's programmed and conditioned from, you know, uh, we as women, we have that, we've been programmed and conditioned into that, and many of our different cultures have that program that, we put everybody else first, you go last, and it's selfish to put yourself first. And to me, um, if you can fill yourself up and be like a fountain, you
Oh,
can,
beautiful.
then you get to be a fountain and nourish everybody. Then you're actually can be of service. If you are depleted because you're putting yourself last, and believe me, we have an epidemic of people, and not just women, like anybody who's doing change making work.
Oh yeah, the activists were the worst.
We're the worst, right? Change makers. It's like we've got the cause, or we're here to heal the world, and we are. However, it doesn't serve us to put ourselves last, because guess what? You can't give from an empty tank, right?
Right. Oh God, and we learned it the hard way. So I'm glad you're here. That's why I'm in your program. Hello. I always want to remember and always think, like give myself priority.
So
Um,
important.
so
You're
many
right.
things you said here. I mean, because it's like I one of the reasons I like collage making is because I see us humans as like walking, breathing, talking collages with all those layers, right? All those layers of stories. Some are help us and some hinder us, and so we have to rewrite our stories. And what I hear you saying is that self-care is like the pen to rewrite those stories, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and you're collage making, and I've experienced doing collages with you, and my gosh, it's so transparent. It is that process. It's like, you know, we're multidimensional beings, right? Like we're not just we're complex. We're
Yeah.
complex beings as humans, and we have to have a lot of love and compassion for ourselves, I find. It's so much love and compassion, because there's a lot of, I mean, I don't know about you, but I mean, I suffered a lot with not being very kind with myself. I had a very strong inner critic, and like I had a lot of self-hatred and self-loathing that I had to heal.
Yeah, and
And
sometimes it's subtle. We don't
it's
realize
subtle.
what
Like we
it
don't
is.
always know it. We don't recognize it, and it comes out in funny ways. And
Mhm.
but to me, I think one of the greatest things we can do for our self-care is connect with nature. And because when you think about it, you know, we have in our, in most of the world, except for I'd say a lot of indigenous cultures, and where there's still this real reverence for nature, and of course there's many of us that have that reverence, who are you know from all kinds of different parts of the world, but but it's like that earth honoring, just awareness and consciousness. It's a
You,
consciousness.
yeah. But before well, maybe as part of that, because I want to go back to what you say about layers. The layers that we have, the stories, the traumas, the blessings, the growth, but also. It's something that I've been watching in the news and watching, like hearing my friends and stories. And it's that, so we're almost post-COVID. I won't say post-COVID, but almost post-COVID, at least in some parts of the world. And what we see is an explosion of mental health, right? Because it was a big trauma. It's a trauma that will be taught historically for centuries. So we're suffering. We have been living in a very traumatic human era, And plus all the other layers we already had that were, traumas and problems and all of that we were having, and injustice and all the things we suffer,
All the war and the wars
and the wars,
happening,
and the
and
political crisis and the
and the
ecological crisis.
and the climate change, like everything
That, yeah. So with all of this, oh my God, oh my God. In other words, with all of this, it's like all the layers combined plus all the layers on top have created a massive, massive weight in our psychic shoulders. And sometimes we do not realize it. I have a friend that I hadn't seen for 2 years. I saw him in Facebook, and his hair was all white. All white, all of a sudden. Just from the 2 critical years of COVID. And when you hear goes all white suddenly, that's heavy trauma there, right? So I would like you to talk, what do we do now with self-care that we can help this situation?
I think um, the thing is that we cannot um, all this stuff that's going on, we can't get at it from outside. We have to go in, and um, and I think COVID has there have been so many teachings from from COVID. I think you know so many things. I mean,
I stopped counting at 15.
yeah, there's so many things, but I think that the being able to we were forced to go inside. Some of us, some people had to be working all the time, and then that shows all the inequities in our society and all that stuff. But we were, it's like nature wants us to go inside and reevaluate. And a lot of people made a lot of changes in their life. There's a lot of reevaluating. Workplaces change. They're working from home. There's so many things that happen. And so I think some people, there was a kind of awakening for many people about quality of life, what's important. It kind of wakes you up to actually what's important in this life, because I have this life. Maybe we have lots of lives. It doesn't matter. But the most important thing is we have this life and we're here now. And so what I would say is, yes, we have all these things, and then we may feel like, oh my God, it's hard to go out, even though we can go out, but sometimes we're not going out of our houses, or we're not seeing our friends, or not doing things in the way we used to do things. Everybody's kind of changed, and I see it for myself, and I'm actually going on a plane in a few weeks, and I'm leaving the country, and I haven't been out of the country in 3 years. So I'm like, oh my God, I'm kind of a little nervous.
Yeah.
It's really interesting. I mean, I'm a traveler, like I'm normally but I'm watching that. It's so interesting. So there's a transition. What I'm going to say is that no matter what is going out, this has always been this, this is that we always we have to orient from the inside out, not the other way around. Because if we orient from the outside in, then we get blown around by life.
Which is what happened to many people.
Everybody's
It was a habit, right?
they're not rooted.
Yeah.
We have to root, hence the radical, into the self. We have to root into the greater self, and nature is one of our greatest, like ways that we can connect immediately. But we can connect immediately through our breath, through our presence, because you can only access this aspect of self in the present moment, in this moment now.
And I know that for you, that lesson came through a story that you have shared with me before, which was your mountain story. So we gotta like be brief because we're already going long, but I would love, when did you discover this, the importance of nature? When did nature, what,
Well, you
what
know,
was like mountain talking to you and changed your life? Let me put it this way.
well, you know what? I would have to say maybe it's not the mountain story. It's the story of being awoken by having it's the story of me connecting with eagles and meeting Eagleheart. Because what happened was that I was in a period where I was being blown around by life, and I was didn't know what I was doing, and I was in a relationship that I was conflicted about, and and so I was like, I got to get the heck out of here to so I can get clarity and root into myself. One of my ways of is I actually travel. That is one of my ways of connecting. Everybody has a different way, and we don't have to travel. We can travel inside, you know, internally.
Yeah, that's my way.
No, and it's been my way when I can't travel. I travel inside, and it's very powerful to travel inside. And so what happened was that I made a decision to travel to the west coast of Canada because I live in Toronto, and I just went like spontaneous, bought a ticket, and I'm like out. And I even had my therapist say at the time, say, "You're escaping, you're running away," and I said, "No, I don't run away. This is my way. I'm not running away." And it couldn't be further from the truth. I was so running into my destiny, because what happened was that uh, you know uh, my the man that I was seeing at the time, he was First Nations Cree man, and when I was having all these anxiety attacks, he gave me a tobacco tie, and said, when you get there, just you're going to know the moment to make an offering. Just you're going to make an offering of gratitude, and you're going to know the exact moment. I don't know what's going to happen. And so he gave me the tobacco tie. I get to Vancouver for a few days. I'm kind of coming back into myself as I'm by the mountains and the ocean, and I'm starting to like write poetry and start to feel Deborah back, feel myself. And all of a sudden, I had the tobacco tie in my pocket, and all of a sudden, I'm walking on Kitsilano Beach, and there's the Marina Museum that has a totem pole. And I was looking up on the totem pole, and there was a bald eagle sitting on the top, like a real one, not a carving, a real bald eagle. I was like, my mouth, my jaw was on
Yeah, it's not like there's I'm a Dawson.
my jaw was on the ground, and I was like, "This is my moment." And so I took that tobacco tie, and I said, I don't know what this means, but I know I'm just so grateful for this moment. Thank you. And I just, offered that tobacco and sat with that eagle.
Wow.
And it was like this incredible moment of something got planted there. And then my friend invited me to go on a medicine walk on the Vancouver Island a few days later. At first, when she asked me to do it, I was totally like, yeah, no, I'm not going to do that. But after the eagle, I was like, yeah, I guess I'm going on the medicine walk. Right? I go on the medicine walk, and I have this profound day of meeting eagles and having all kinds of connection with nature. It was my first time that, like, to really connect with nature, and like, I received so many messages, and I came so into myself in a new way. And after that, as I was leaving, I went to a store, and I mean, that was a very transformative day, the medicine walk. It's a whole long story. But the last day, I went to a bookstore. I was waiting for my bus, and I was sitting in the shaman section and looking at eagles, reading eagle about what's the symbolism, and reading all this stuff, symbolic stuff. And then there's a man who's around me and going, "Excuse me, excuse." Oh, sorry. I'm like, "Yeah, it's a bookstore, whatever." Anyway, he goes, "I got to give this to you," and he hands me a stone. He gives me this stone, perfectly flat, round stone, and I'm like, and then he disappeared, and I was like, "Oh my God, where?" And then I ran after him, and I said,
Yeah. He was
"Hey,"
the messenger.
I said, "Where'd you get the stone?" And he said, I had been in East Souk Park on Vancouver Island, and I was reading about my totem animal, wolf, and at the moment that I met him. So I've got the stone in my hand. I go, "Where'd you get the stone?" He goes, got the stone where the East Souk River meets the Old Wolf river. And I went, can I talk to you? So I ended up talking to him for 6 hours.
Oh my
I
God.
missed my bus.
Obviously.
I missed the bus, but I got on the right bus.
Yeah, exactly.
I got on the right bus
But you
to
cut
my
your destiny.
destination. Yeah, because this man was instrumental in, I mean, I was someone already practicing yoga, and I was a student of Buddhism. I was a very avid meditator. So I wasn't a yoga teacher yet, but this man, he ended up like, I told him my whole story, and he goes, you're a teacher, right? And I looked at him, and I was in my 30s. I was in my, I don't know, 32, 33. And I didn't believe. I said, maybe when I'm 60, I'll be I'm now 58. I'm 58 now. And then
Oh,
he looked at me, he laughed. He said, "No, you're teaching me now." And he said, and then I said, "Well, if I'm a teacher, what would I teach?" He says, "You'll teach what the people need." And I went, so interesting, because I mean, I was, I had a master's in adult education, so it's not, but spiritual teacher, that was something different. And so then and then he told me his name. He said he waited for a while to tell me his name. He was you know, a, I don't know what his background, white man, but he had spent a lot of time in the native uh, uh, communities there, and he was kind of given a name. And he told me, I was given a name. My name is Eagle Heart.
oh my God. That was the final brush, right? Like,
Yeah. So, but what I'm saying is that that story is the story that my life changed, because then I went, okay, I'm going to find this path of, so that took me on the path of, I was already studying yoga and Buddhism, and so, but I decided to do a yoga teacher training with my teacher, who had been already my teacher for 10 years. So
beautiful.
I trained with her. But anyway, that began this whole relation with a much more shamanic connection. And it began a series of then me studying with all these shamans from Africa.
So you bring wisdom from India. You've traveled there and you've studied with teachers there from Latin America, um, from Africa, and you mix them in this beautiful path of self-nourishment that it's interesting because it's a mixture of self growth, you know, self-development and spirituality, and which sometimes people keep separated. And I really appreciate that you unite them. And I want you to talk a little bit about the 5-day challenge that you're proposing, because I know you have different elements of self-care that you've been teaching us. Um, and I want you to kind of weave those two things, how this 5-day challenge is going to teach us these elements and put us on the track.
So, in terms of elements of radical self-nourishment, um, you know, I would say, part of, we need to do cleansing. We need to cleanse our minds, our bodies. We have to cleanse on all layers, and it also means cleaning our environments.
So cleaning is the first one.
Cleaning is the first one, and it's also like creating sacred spaces is also part of cleansing. When you create a sacred altar, that cleanses the space. So we talk on the energy levels, and so an aspect of that is, so when we cleanse, it helps us reclaim energy. And then what I would say, the second element, it's about, the element is like contentment, cultivating contentment. And I don't mean contentment from like stuff on the outside. It's like, how do we cultivate contentment from the inside out? And so what it is about accessing who we are as our natural state. And, some of the things that, we have to create the conditions for it. So one thing I would say is defining your boundaries is a very important condition that helps us, right, to claim, and some of the issues that many of us have as change makers is that we have boundary issues that,
Yep.
that we can't say no. We can't say yes to ourselves, and we can't say no to others, and so it's like this. And so defining our boundaries is really an important aspect of that, and there's much more to that, but that's what I'll say for now. I'd say the third thing is about practice. We need consistent, simple practices that we each feel connected to, that will serve us, that are supportive for the needs for the moment. And so we need to find practices that will help us to do the cleansing, to do the getting, helping with the defining the boundaries. We need practices, and so that's and that we can connect with, and that helps us. It strengthens our container, our space. When we build up that energy, it really can help with that. Then our energy doesn't get leaked out. So
Right.
through practice, we strengthen our container. And then I would say about becoming learning how to become a receiver, because we're often so great at giving. We give and we overgive, and giving is so it's part of reciprocity. We give and we receive, and there's a flow with it. But what often happens with change makers is that we have such a we can't help it. We're born to be givers, but we also are need to receive, and we are natural receivers. We just are kind of our we have a block about it. We have a
Yeah.
block that interrupts our capacity to receive.
Yeah.
And so learning how to become a receiver is an important part of radical self-nourishment.
Ooh, that one is like, oh my God. You got like key points. I recognize each one like, ouch, ouch.
And the last one is about letting go.
Hmm.
Surrender, like letting go. We hold on to so much stuff. And how can it's like, how can we grow if we're full of all this stuff? How can we receive anything new? We can't receive because we can't let go. So we need to be able to let go, and allow ourselves to be able to flow with life. So letting go is such an important practice. It's one of the hardest practices to let go.
Yeah. It goes into identity. I remember the ones, I don't know, remember in what conditions, but I was complaining, sometimes I complain in my altar. I used to do that worse than now. But, and my guys say, hang up. God is trying God is ringing, trying to get to you. Hang up. You're busy. Hang up. And I cracked up laughing. It was like, I got it, guys. I got it.
Yeah. I mean, it's a big one. It's a big one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. So those are gonna be the topics of the 5 days.
We're going to be doing so I have a 5-day challenge next week, starting Monday, the 19th at 1 p.m. Eastern. The calls will be a half an hour a practice, and then 15 minutes to share after, and that's optional. And they'll be recorded. So, and we're going to be doing these things. We're going to reclaim our energy. So, we're going to define our boundaries on day 2. We're going to weave a strong personal space on day 3. We're going to become a powerful receiver on day 4. And you're going to nourish yourself radically on day 5 with really like talking about these five attitudes that really help you come into this alignment and aligned relationship with yourself, and really kind of get this concept of radical self nourishment.
Self with capital S.
Exactly.
Like your sacred self, your divine self, your goddess self.
Yes.
Feed that beauty. All right. So that's beautiful. Thank you so much. I want to say again. So Deborah is doing a Facebook live challenge
No, it's
that
not
is going.
Facebook. I don't know if it's Facebook Live. It's going to be, you got to sign up.
All right,
Yeah.
but it's in Facebook, right?
No, it's not in Facebook.
Oh, okay, okay.
It's going
So
to
it's a
be,
5 day challenge that is going to be on September 19th. That's Monday. That's the first day. And it's going to go for 5 days and each day at 1 p.m. EST. And if you cannot make it at that time, there's going to be replay.
yeah, there'll be
So
reruns.
there's no
They'll
excuse.
send each day.
All right. So if you, I don't even know how to say if because we're all there, but give yourself that gift.
Mm,
If you're around, if you can make it, give yourself that gift of self-care because it has changed my life. I did this, I don't remember how many years ago,
it was
20,
2020. Yeah.
20, but I'm just, it really helped me to nourish, to work from a full place, from a full tank, you
And
know.
that's what we need.
And not, because I am a recovery caretaker. You know that. I know you know that. I know you know that. So if you're like me, it's just what we need to be giving from a full heart, from a full tank. Um, and actually, our happiness is the path.
Our happiness is the path, um, and what I'll say about the challenge is, I really weave in our connection to nature. In everything I do, I can't help it.
I love when you say that nature was talking to you because one of the things that I love about well, I'm always connected with nature, but it's like a lot of times we ask questions and they're being answered. They are being answered. We
Right.
got out of the house, we look at a tree and it is being answered, and we just don't see it.
I know.
You know.
And so that's one of the things I love to help open that up for people to, to start to make that an orientation.
That is brilliant. That is brilliant. Connect us, please. All right. So, 5 day challenge of radical self nourishment for you is the universe is bringing it directly to you on September 19th. And the link to register is https ://rsn dot deborahbrody.com/5 day challenge with dashes in between. You're seeing it right there. So https ://rsn dot deborahbrody.com/5 day challenge. All right. So we'll put the link in the
Put
description.
the link in the description. Yeah.
And below, above, to the side, wherever page you are, look for the link to register.
Yeah.
And
Hope to see you there.
thank you.
Thank you so much, Maria, for this yummy conversation.
Thank you for being, Deborah. And you who is listening, thank you for being and for being here with us.